Welcome to Life Stories, where one sentence from a child unraveled a truth no one dared to imagine. My mommy's under the bed. That's all she said. No screaming, no crying, just a quiet whisper during art class, casual enough to ignore, powerful enough to save a life. Today's story isn't just about danger, it's about the monsters who smile, the silence we overlook, and the unimaginable strength hidden inside a 6-year-old girl and the teacher who chose to believe her. If you've ever wondered how far someone would go to protect the idea of love, even when it turns to obsession, this story will stay with you long after the screen fades to black. Stay with us. The truth is buried deeper than you think. Let's begin. The morning air in Westwood Hills was unusually still, like the breath before a scream. Rachel Green stood in front of the classroom window, fingers tightening around her thermos, as she watched the children filter into the schoolyard. Third graders tumbled out of cars, backpacks bouncing, laughter rising like birdsong. But one child walked in alone, Emily, the little girl with honey-colored braids and the habit of drawing houses that never had windows. She held her teddy bear tighter than her lunchbox. "Did you see her eyes today?" Ava, the cafeteria manager, asked quietly as she entered the lounge. Rachel nodded, her voice low. "She hasn't smiled all week. Came in alone again this morning. I asked about her mom. She said she's on a business trip. But yesterday, she said something else." Ava furrowed her brow. "What did she say?" Rachel hesitated. "She said her mom was under the bed, that she couldn't talk, that she hadn't eaten." Silence wrapped around them like a tightening cord. Ava forced a smile, trying to reason it away. Kids have wild imaginations. Maybe it was a dream or something she saw in a movie. Rachel didn't respond. Because it wasn't just a sentence. It was the drawing. Yesterday, during free time, Emily had sketched something that made Rachel's blood run cold. A bed with black walls. A woman's hand sticking out from underneath it. A child sitting nearby, holding a crayon. A sentence scrawled above in crooked block letters, "She told me not to open the door." At lunchtime, Rachel sat beside Emily in the art corner. "What are you drawing today?" she asked gently. Emily didn't look up. "Me and Mommy. Before." "Before what, sweetheart?" The girl's crayon paused mid-stroke. Then she whispered, "Before she got locked up." Rachel's breath hitched. "Who locked her up?" No answer. Emily reached for a black crayon and began filling the corners of the page until the paper seemed to cave in on itself. That night, Rachel couldn't sleep. She replayed every moment, every word, every tiny shift in Emily's face. Her instincts screamed louder than reason. Something was wrong. The next morning, she requested a meeting with the principal and the student services coordinator. She brought the drawings. She brought her fear. An hour later, 2 state troopers walked into the school. One tall and focused, Detective Nolan. The other smaller, but with a softness in his voice, Detective Reed. "Hi there, Emily," Nolan said as they entered the classroom. "We're here to make sure you're safe." Emily blinked, clutching her teddy bear tighter. Rachel sat beside her, heart pounding. "Honey, can you tell the officers what you told me?" Emily's voice was barely audible. "Mommy hasn't eaten. She's under the bed. She doesn't talk anymore." "Do you know who put her there?" Reed asked gently. Emily shook her head. "I woke up and she was already there." When asked for her home address, she recited it in one breath, like it had been whispered to her over and over again. 12 Oak Ridge Lane. The officers left immediately. The apartment sat on the edge of town, partially hidden behind a tall hedge. A padlock hung from the outside latch. "Something's off," Nolan muttered. They knocked. No response. But then, the faint shuffle of feet. The door creaked open. Emily stood there, teddy bear in hand. "You weren't at school," Rachel said, stunned. "Who brought you home?" "No one," Emily answered. "I just came." Inside, the apartment was too quiet, refrigerator empty, curtains drawn, air stale. "She's in there," Emily whispered, pointing to the bedroom. Nolan got down on one knee and aimed his flashlight under the bed. And there she was. Lauren, Emily's mother, bound and gagged, her body trembling, barely conscious. Reed called in the medics. Nolan cut the cloth gently with a pocket knife. Lauren's lips moved, parched and cracked. Her eyes fluttered open. She looked past Nolan. Emily, she rasped. She's safe, Nolan said, his voice tight. You're safe now, too. The woman collapsed into tears. Hours later, at Mercy General Hospital, Lauren clung to consciousness as the doctor administered fluids. Rachel sat by Emily's side, holding her small hand while she slept, curled in a chair. She was locked up, Rachel told the officers. She fought to survive for her daughter. She left a note, Morgan, the forensic tech, reported. Under the bed. Emily, don't cry. I'm still here. Don't open the door for anyone. Who did this to her? Rachel asked, though part of her already knew. The building manager confirmed a name, Jake Harlan, a neighbor. Early 40s, quiet, helpful. Used to walk Emily to the park when Lauren was busy. Known for fixing plumbing. Bringing over soup when Emily had the flu. He had a spare key, given months ago. They were close, the manager said. I thought they were cousins or something. When officers knocked on Jake's door that evening, he opened with a pleasant smile. Evening, officers. Is something wrong? Can we talk to you about Lauren Whitman? His expression flickered, just for a second, then it returned. She okay? He asked. I haven't seen her in a few days. She was found bound and dehydrated in her bedroom, Reed said. You were the last person seen entering her apartment. Jake blinked. I just went in to check on her. She didn't answer the door. You didn't think to call the police? I didn't want to intrude. I figured maybe she was just away. We'll need you to come down to the station, Nolan said calmly, to give a statement. As they let him out, Rachel remained outside Lauren's door, staring at the crime scene tape fluttering in the breeze. Ava joined her, arms crossed. If you hadn't acted, she said quietly. Rachel didn't respond. Her fists clenched, the memory of Emily's voice echoing in her mind. Mommy is under the bed. Later that night, in the stark interrogation room, Jake sat across from Nolan and Investigator Carter. He was calm. Too calm. I was just worried about her, he said again. We were close. You once said to her, we're a family now, aren't we? Carter leaned forward. Jake's eyes narrowed. You were treated for obsessive attachment disorder in 2015, Nolan added. You believed people were in love with you when they weren't. Jake shrugged. She needed me. You locked her under the bed, Carter snapped. Left her 6-year-old alone for 3 days. That's not love. That's control. He smiled faintly. She'll understand one day. I saved her from the chaos. Back at the hospital, Lauren whispered her truth. The smell of cologne in the middle of the night, the hands that dragged her, the eyes that didn't blink. And Rachel, holding Emily in the hallway, realized with a crushing ache, if she hadn't listened to a child's drawing, this might have ended in a funeral, not a rescue. What would you have done if you were Rachel? Risked being wrong or stayed silent? Do you believe kindness can be used as a weapon when disguised too well? And just as one door closes, another creaks open. In the next part, a secret from Jake's past threatens to unravel everything they thought they knew. Lauren Whitman hadn't slept for more than an hour since the hospital let her breathe on her own again. Even with the IVs removed, even with the warmth of clean sheets and the soft voice of her nurse Alyssa, her body refused to rest. Her hands trembled. Her back ached. But the real wounds, the ones no scan could show, throbbed in the silence. Emily was asleep in the recliner next to the bed, curled up like she had when she was 2, her fingers still clutching the same bear. Lauren tried to memorize the curve of her cheek, the faint whistle in her breath, the way one sock had slipped halfway off. She remembered the moment she woke up under that bed, gagged and tied, her vision blurry, the panic that surged, the darkness, the sound of Emily's voice calling out, "Mommy," through thick wooden planks. Lauren had never felt so close to dying or so determined to live. A soft knock broke her thoughts. Alyssa stepped in, followed by a woman in a navy blazer and a stern yet calm demeanor. Lauren, this is Investigator Irene Carter. She's been assigned to your case. Lauren straightened instinctively, then winced at the pain in her ribs. I'm sorry to disturb you, Irene said, setting down a recorder. I just need you to talk me through the days before the incident. Any detail, no matter how small, could help. Lauren hesitated, then nodded. Jake used to help out with things, she said slowly. He fixed the faucet once, changed a light bulb. I let him walk Emily to the park when I was stuck in traffic. I thought he was just being kind. What changed? 6 months ago. He started showing up without being asked, standing too close, leaving flowers with no card. One time I wore a dress to work and he was waiting by my door when I got home. He just stared. Irene scribbled a note. I told him I wasn't interested, that I just wanted to be neighbors. He smiled, but something in his eyes. Something was wrong. He said, "You don't have to say it out loud. I know you feel it." Lauren's voice broke. I started locking the door. I didn't let him take Emily anymore. He got quiet after that, but he didn't go away. A pause. The ivy beeped once. That night, I thought I heard the wind. Then I heard the lock turn. I sat up and he was there. He didn't say a word, just hit me. I woke up gagged, tied under the bed. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I couldn't scream. I couldn't move. And my baby? She was right there. On the other side of the mattress. She thought I'd left her. Alyssa handed her a tissue. Lauren didn't use it. She just stared at the ceiling. Every hour, I thought he'd come back, that he'd hurt her, or worse. Irene's tone softened, but he didn't, and she kept herself alive. She's incredibly strong. Lauren looked at her daughter. She shouldn't have had to be. Back at the station, Nolan and Reed were reviewing the new evidence, specifically the items found in Jake Harlan's apartment, the box of Emily's hair ribbons, a copy of her birth certificate, a drawing of her pinned next to a candle. But it was the photo that made Nolan pause. A grainy image of a different woman, different child. Who is this? He asked. Morgan, the forensic tech, stepped in. We just matched the face. Mary Harris, Jake's ex-wife, divorced in 2013. She filed a domestic abuse report, then retracted it. Moved out of state. Did she have a kid? No. Miscarried, 3 weeks before she left him. Nolan let the silence hang like smoke. So this wasn't new. This was a pattern. Contact her, he said. She needs to know this isn't just history anymore. Meanwhile, Rachel sat on the school bench watching recess through the window. She hadn't been able to teach since the day Emily whispered, "She's under the bed." The other teachers tried to reassure her, told her she'd done the right thing, that if she'd hesitated, Lauren might be dead, that Emily might have been taken. But Rachel didn't feel right. She felt haunted. Ava found her outside, sipping cold coffee from a paper cup. She's doing better, Ava said softly. Emily, she laughed today, drew a picture of a treehouse with a zip line. Rachel gave a faint smile. I keep wondering, she said, what if I'd ignored her drawing? What if I'd said, that's just imagination, and gone back to grading spelling tests? Ava was quiet. Jake smiled, Rachel added. He smiled in the hallways. He held doors open. He gave Emily stickers. I smiled back. You're not responsible for his evil. Rachel turned to her, eyes dark. But we're all responsible for what we let slide. That night, Emily had a nightmare. Lauren woke to her daughter's cries. Don't go under the bed again. Mommy, please. She held her, heart shattering anew. It's over, Lauren whispered into her hair. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Emily looked up, eyes wide. Do you promise? I swear. But Lauren was lying, because part of her still feared that Jake would return, that the door would turn, that the world would go quiet again, and she hadn't told Emily yet, hadn't told anyone, that Jake had left something behind, taped under the bathroom sink. She'd found it that morning, a note, just 2 lines. We're not done, Lauren. Families don't end this easily. What would you do if the person you fear most still had a key to your mind, even after the door was locked? Don't miss what comes next, because in part 3, a forgotten name from Jake's past returns, and the fight for freedom becomes far more dangerous than Lauren ever imagined. The first night in their new home was silent. No locks on the outside, no bars on the windows, no more padlocks, just stillness and wind brushing softly through the open window as Lauren watched her daughter sleep in a bed that wasn't pressed to a wall. Emily had fallen asleep with a new book on her chest and a drawing taped above her pillow, a house with wide open doors and 2 stick figures flying over it. Lauren stared at the picture for a long time, tracing the lines with her eyes like prayer. Earlier that week, She had burned Jake's note in the backyard. Not in rage, in ritual. She'd whispered, "You don't get to write the last line," and lit the edge with a matchstick. The fire caught fast. It was the first time she'd felt warmth in weeks that didn't come from a machine or a bodyguard's coat. But even now, in safety, she could still feel the residue of the lock turning that night. She poured herself tea in the kitchen and sat by the window. The counselor, Alyssa, had said healing wasn't about forgetting. It was about learning to carry the memory without letting it crush you. Lauren was trying, but sometimes at night, her wrists still tingled where the cloth had been tied too tight. Sometimes she reached under her own bed before falling asleep, just to be sure there was nothing, no one. A soft knock broke the stillness. She turned, heart thudding. It was nearly midnight. Another knock. She grabbed the phone from the counter and moved toward the front door. Before she could even speak, a voice came through on the other side. "Miss Whitman? I'm Agent Marin Doyle, FBI." Lauren opened the door slowly. A tall woman in a navy jacket stood on the porch, her badge open in one hand. "I know it's late," Doyle said, "but I need to speak with you about Jake Harlan." Lauren stepped aside silently. Inside, Doyle placed a folder on the coffee table. "Jake's not new to this. After Mary Harris, there were two other women. Both moved. Both were too scared to press charges." Lauren stared. Why didn't anyone say anything? Because they were silenced. Not with threats, but with shame. He made them feel like they'd done something wrong. Classic manipulation. "We're gathering testimonies now. With your case, we may be able to open a federal pattern case." Will that change his sentence? Not the one he has now, but it could keep him from ever petitioning early release. Doyle's tone lowered. "But that's not why I'm here." Lauren's chest tightened. "He's written a letter," Doyle continued, "from his holding cell. Not to you, to Emily." Lauren's stomach dropped. "We intercepted it during screening. We don't believe she was ever in danger physically, but emotionally. He still sees her as part of his delusion." Doyle handed her a photocopy of the letter. The original would be held in evidence. Lauren unfolded it with trembling hands. "Dear Emily, I hope your mommy is doing better. I miss our park days. I drew a picture of you today, and the sun was shining in it. You always made me feel less alone. Don't forget our secret handshake. I'll come find you when things are calm again. Love, Jake." Lauren's hands shook, but not from fear this time, from fury. "You're doing the right thing," Doyle said. "We'll file for a permanent protection order against any form of contact." Lauren nodded. But deep inside, something had shifted. The fear had been burned out, replaced with a quieter, colder resolve. She wouldn't let her daughter carry the shadow of this man anymore. Not a single letter, not a whisper. 2 weeks later, the court issued a permanent no-contact order. Jake was officially forbidden from communicating with Emily in any capacity. Lauren sat in the courtroom holding Emily's small hand. The judge never once looked at her, but she didn't need him to. The law finally had a shape she could feel. On the way home, Emily stared out the window. "Is he going to write again?" she asked. "No," Lauren said gently. "Because the judge said no?" "Because I said no." Emily was quiet for a while, then looked up. "If I don't think about him, will he disappear?" Lauren took a breath. "Maybe not completely, but if we fill your world with better things, friends, stories, sunshine, his part will get smaller. One day it might feel like just a dream you don't remember anymore." Emily nodded and went back to coloring in her lap. That night, after tucking Emily into bed, Lauren walked to her own room and opened a new journal. She hadn't written in years, but tonight the words came. "Dear Emily, there are things I wish I could have protected you from, but you taught me what strength really looks like. It's not being unafraid, it's surviving anyway. It's waking up in the dark and whispering, 'Mom,' even when no one answers. It's eating moldy bread and still finding the energy to color the sun. You are my miracle. You saved me." She closed the journal and tucked it in her drawer, not because she wanted to forget, but because it was time to begin again. In the spring, Emily started at a new school. The first day, she carried two things: her drawing pad and the bracelet Alyssa had given her, engraved with the word light. She wore it proudly. When asked what she wanted to be when she grew up, she answered without hesitation, an artist who teaches kids how to draw their safe place. And when asked why, she paused and simply said, because sometimes the picture knows before we do. At the community art exhibit that May, Rachel Green, now transferred to the nearby district, attended quietly, walking from easel to easel. Her breath caught when she saw a familiar name, Emily Whitman, age 7. The piece was titled Under the Bed, Over the Sky. It showed a child reaching down into darkness, pulling out a woman wrapped in sunlight. Above them, a sky full of paper birds. Rachel blinked back tears. Emily spotted her from across the room and ran to hug her. "You came," she said. "I wouldn't miss it," Rachel whispered. "You're incredible." Emily smiled, then pointed to the corner of the drawing. "See that? That's you. That little bird with the pen." Rachel laughed. "Why a pen? Because you wrote the beginning of the escape." Rachel smiled. "And you finished it." That night, Lauren sat on the porch, watching Emily draw fireflies on the sidewalk with chalk. Alyssa had come by for tea, and they sat in quiet company. "You ever think about testifying in the next trial?" Alyssa asked. "I think about it," Lauren said. "But I don't need to anymore." "Why not?" Lauren nodded toward her daughter. "Because the strongest voice I've ever heard already told the world everything it needed to know." And for the first time in a very long time, the night felt safe. The sky wasn't empty. It was full of wings. What did this story make you feel? And what part stayed with you the longest? Comment 100 if this story touched your heart. We'd love to know. Where in the world are you watching from? If this story moved you, please share it with a friend. Thank you for watching Life Stories.